Good morning.
Good morning. All right, we're just gonna get started and then we'll let more folks trickle in as they come. So welcome everyone. This coffee hour is being recorded for those who couldn't be here and for those who are here and would like to review anything that we cover today. You'll be able to find this and all of our coffee hours, along with recordings of workshops, certification help, newsletter previews, and a great deal more, all on our YouTube channel. Just search YouTube for Sustainable CT and you'll find us there. And we'll also put the link in the chat. You'll also find a direct link to our YouTube channel in our monthly newsletter, Actions and Impact. A link to all of our newsletters is also going to be in the chat. If you've registered for this coffee hour, you probably already do receive our newsletter, but if not, please check it out. We try and keep it fun and informative. You can easily subscribe at sustainablecT.org by clicking the sign up button at the very bottom of the page. While you're on our website, also check out this month's episode of The Impact, a Sustainable CT podcast. New episodes are available on the 15th of every month on our website, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. This month's episode is all about our fabulous Fellows program. It features two of our 2026 summer fellows, Grace Tutuno and Natalie Crowley. We'll learn how they came to the program, what they hope to accomplish, what they think about sustainability, about politics, about life, and how they see the future. They're joined by our Fellows Program Coordinator and guest producer of this episode, Lily Adamo, and our Sustainable Communities Fellow, Katie Meter, takes over the host chair. It's a wall-to-wall Fellows Month on the Impact. Don't miss it. And it may feel like the middle of a hot, smoky summer, but our fall certification deadline is just a little over a month away. It's August 18th. If you need help, while we're talking about fellows, we've placed these highly qualified students across the state's Council of Governments, or COGS, to help cities and towns become registered, certified, or recertified with Sustainable CT during the summer. If you're not sure what COG your town is part of, just follow the link in the chat for more information on COG locations. And as always, you can reach out to us at info@sustainablecT.org for guidance. So yeah, remember August 18th at noon is the deadline for our fall certification cycle. You can do this and we can help. All right. Now that we got all of that out of the way, I am going to turn it over to Vincent Giordano from Ridgefield, who is kindly here to talk to us this morning about the electrification of lawn care and lawn care equipment.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Summer. What I'm showing, hopefully, on my screen is an agenda for today's conversation. Could someone confirm, Summer, that you're able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes, you can see it quickly.
So we're very lucky today. We have with us Matt Quinones, who has been on the Board of Representatives, an elected official in this town of Stamford. He has also been the president of the Board of Representatives at one time, first lieutenant in the Connecticut National Guard, and since 2022 has been the director of operations in Stamford. So I'd like Matt to say hello, because I know a lot of folks want to hear how Stamford is proceeding on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you today, and thanks for inviting me. And appreciate Sustainable CT for organizing this conversation. Happy to talk a little bit about the city of Stamford and our approach towards this very important topic. So let me know, Vincent, if you want me to just dive right in, or if you want me to just say a few words about the city.
So what I'd like to do is I'll set the table for you, Matt, with the why do we want to retool. I won't spend a lot of time on that because I suspect that a lot of people on this call know why we want to retool battery equipment. And then after I go through the Rye, New York experience, which will be rather short, I'll turn it over to you, Matt, and people can learn about Stamford has made probably the most competitive commitment to retooling with battery equipment in the state. And your approach and progress is really important for all of us. There's another individual who may be joining. His name is Cameron Evangelisti from the town of Chester. Like Stanford, another silver awardee. And he has been the director of public works for 3.5 years, and they have been retooling with battery equipment. So hoping that he's able to join this conversation as well. So let's begin with the expectation. This is a new action item for 2026. You'll find it in section 3 under well-stewarded land and natural resources, implementing green grounds and maintenance programs. So this 3.11.5, which is to increase the use of electric lawn care and landscaping equipment. I should note, by the way, we want to make this somewhat conversational. So feel free to write your questions in the chat or raise your hand. Summer will be monitoring the chat, and she will interrupt us to ask your questions. All right, so it's increase the use of landscaping equipment, and you need documentation that your municipality utilizes electric lawn care equipment. And you can do that as with a procurement contract, an ordinance, a policy, but should be part of your standard operating procedure. The objective here is to increase the use. So you should have some battery operated equipment in your fleet, and you should have a commitment to increase that over time. I'm showing a depiction of Rye City, Rye, New York. You can see on the left, juxtaposition of the current state, use of fossil fuel equipment, and on the right-hand side, moving towards battery, a more sustainable approach. If you're looking for a why, all you need to do is look at the any manual of your gas-powered equipment, and you will find a warning statement in there. And this is one from Steel, but you would find it from Toro or Honda. As soon as the engine is running, this product generates toxic exhaust fumes containing chemicals such as unburned hydrocarbons, including benzene and carbon monoxide, known to cause respiratory problems, cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm. So you can see that this is from any user manual, and it pretty much says it all in one sentence. But if we want to look into more detail in terms of the emissions, this came from a study done by Edmunds.com. The link is on the left-hand side of the screen. And what they did was they ran a gas-powered leaf blower for 30 minutes and tried to equate the amount of toxic pollution in terms of running a vehicle. And in this case, it was the Ford F-150 Raptor. And basically, using a leaf blower for 30 minutes will produce as much air pollution as driving a Ford 150 Raptor for over 3,000 miles. Now, why is that? Well, a lot of lawn care equipment is two-stroke engines. They only consume about 70% of the gasoline and oil, and they do not have the sophisticated air pollution control devices that you'll find in a vehicle. So what are these emissions? Well, we've got carbon dioxide, which leads to global warming, noise, which leads to hearing loss, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, hydrocarbons, which can lead to global warming and smog. You also have the carcinogens, benzene, formaldehyde, butadiene. And then you've got particulate matters, including PM2.5, which is so small that that particulate matter will cross from the lungs into the bloodstream and causes quite a bit of damage. To give you some idea of how much pollution we're talking about in terms of the state of Connecticut, US PIRG did a publication called Lawn Care Goes Electric 2023, and they calculated how much pollution across the whole state of Connecticut. So just focusing on PM 2.5, If you were to compare the emissions with numbers of cars, it's the equivalent to over 3 million vehicles. So if we were able to wave a wand and convert all of our lawn care equipment from gas to battery, it would be the equivalent of taking 3 million cars off the road. A couple of slides on noise. The difference in noise is the noise signature and the loudness. So gas-powered leaf blowers will emit more low-frequency noise, which travels further distances and actually can penetrate walls, doors, and windows. The blue line on this screen represents the low frequency, and you can see that it travels a great distance. This is over 800 feet and still has not gotten below the World Health Organization outdoor daytime level, whereas high frequency and mid frequency will cross that line at an earlier point in time. One last chart on noise. This was done by a study by ARUP, ARUP in 2018. The blue bar represents a battery-operated leaf blower. The flesh bar is gas. The gray bar is ambient noise. And the orange bar is another gas-powered leaf blower. And what they did in this study was they positioned the blowers at a distance away from the house. I think it was about 50 feet or so. And they measured the noise inside the home. And because noise is measured on a logarithmic scale, the difference between the blue bar, which is the battery-operated leaf blower, and the orange bar is 100 times intensity. So this is why you can't really get away from the noise by going into your home and closing your windows and doors. A slide on cost savings. Why is it important that your municipality might want to move to battery-powered equipment just for economics alone? So what I'm comparing here in this slide is a battery-powered leaf blower with a gas-powered leaf blower. And it is true that the initial upfront costs are higher for battery. So in this case, you'll see that this particular kit, which is an Ego blower plus 4 Ego batteries plus 2 dual port chargers, is an investment cost of $2,750. Whereas the steel gas-powered leaf blower is an investment cost of $550. But when you look at operating costs over a multi-year basis, you'll see that you're actually saving money over time by moving to battery-operated equipment, because the operating costs for battery are so much lower than the operating and maintenance costs for gas. One simple example is with battery-powered equipment, you don't have to winterize your equipment. So over a 5 years period of time, a single blower will save you almost $5,000. So in addition to protecting your municipal employees from all the toxic emissions, you'll also be saving money. The town of Rye, New York, actually has started this process in 2022, and we can learn a lot from what they've done. They have 140 acres to maintain. And here are 10 learnings. There were no additional insurance costs to the town. There was no need to build any new buildings. They actually use a shipping container to store their 3 riding mowers, and each riding mower has a Tesla battery. The additional electrical work was actually limited to adding a single 20 amp line out to the shipping containers. They have 7 backpack and 1 handheld blowers to manage the 140 acres. And their ongoing cost for new batteries is limited to 2 to 3 new batteries a year. What they have done is they have 2 charging locations to the town, and to manage the power, they use something called a Tawa power management device. That device will, and we can talk about that more later, that device allows you to charge multiple batteries with a single 20 amp outlet without overpowering that outlet. They store their charged batteries in a fire safety cabinet, and they've experienced a 25% reduction in their annual operation and maintenance costs. They don't have any truck inverters or any generators. They just simply load the truck with extra batteries in a milk crate. And they have retained only one gas-powered device. They have a power takeoff device for their most difficult jobs. And that brings us to Stanford. What I have showing on the screen is Stanford's new ordinance. And Matt, I could leave this up while you speak, or I can turn it to you, however you prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think leaving it up is great, and folks can take a look at some of the text that comes through from our recently passed ordinance. So, Vincent, thank you again for the opportunity to just give a little update on where we are as a community in terms of implementing this program. I think you highlighted so many important factors on exactly why we're embracing this, and certainly the health of the public being at the forefront, both our residents and our staff. So this has been a process that's gone on for over a year. I would acknowledge, and I hope she's on today, but we had from our legislative body, a leading advocate, Representative Karen Camporelli, who was really a driving force. And I highlight the legislative process because it aligns with the importance of our implementation in that we've had a real collaborative approach with the legislative body to pass this ordinance so that we could implement a program responsibly from my perspective. And Stanford's approach is just that. We are looking at piloting the various public work functions over the course of this fiscal year prior to kind of fully fleshing out the development of exactly what it means to establish this program citywide. So I think it's important for those that may be less familiar with the Stanford community to just highlight a few facts about our community. So you may be unaware that Stanford has 320 miles of roadway that we are managing. We have over 900 acres of park space that we are also managing. We have 62 owned facilities and 58 parks. In our municipal fleet, we have over 750 vehicles and various pieces of equipment ranging from passenger vehicles, heavy duty trucks, specialized equipment for park maintenance. So on any given day, our crews are mowing athletic fields, maintaining playgrounds, repairing roads. So I think it's aligned from a public works standpoint with many communities within the state of Connecticut. Just given our population, we are probably one of the larger departments. So taking this on is certainly something that takes serious consideration and serious planning. So that's why our approach to this has been one to pilot. So we're looking at the various different functions, such as mowing, trimming, and this year we'll have crews established for each of those functions with electric equipment. So right now, our pilot will contemplate evaluating commercial zero-turn mowers, stand-on mowers, handheld leaf blowers, multi-purpose battery-powered equipment, some charging stations, and battery management strategies. And that's what we're going to look to assess over the course of this year. Our first implementation will take place at next month at the end of summer when we look to implement a crew for our athletic field maintenance. And then beginning in the fall is probably the piece that is the most challenging, which is our citywide leaf pickup program. So as established now, our leaf pickup program is loose leaves. So I know some communities have transitioned to bag leave, but that is currently not how we operate. So the challenge on the timing is one that we're looking at as being one of the most significant obstacles. So we launch our program in mid November, usually the first work day after Veterans Day. And we look to get done before the end of the calendar year, starting in the northern part of our city and then moving further south. So that tight time frame, and then you always introduce the variable of snowstorms to potentially disrupt us for a time period during that window. We're definitely moving quickly. So any concerns coming from staff around this particular mission are related to kind of that sticking to that time. And I think when we look at electrifying our landscaping equipment, as our ordinance is calling for, we want to do so with the confidence that we will not take a step back in terms of the delivery of our services. So we're remaining committed to implementing this program and doing so where we will not take that step back. I think I spoke to a little bit of the collaborative approach during the legislative process. We have given the opportunity to kind of return to our Board of Representatives should we not feel as though we can kind of deliver on that service and with the electrifying of our landscaping equipment. That being said, I think at this point we're pretty confident in the other functions that we're tasked with, and we're going to use this year to be able to test that out and verify that indeed we can. And then the leaf pickup is one that still remains a question mark that we have a little bit less confidence around. However, we are going to push for that this year. Really, when we look at this, it's been predominantly an analysis that we've done through our fleet manager and really the procurement side of this effort. We're leveraging the other public work functions really as kind of the folks who are going to ultimately use the equipment to get their perspective once we've purchased it and actually deployed them to the departments. So at this juncture, they've been kind of the main driver of our effort. But we're excited later this summer to really get out there and actually see this in action, and looking forward to the fall as well when we have the challenge of our leaf pickup program. And I hope that with Sustainable CT, we can kind of continue to come back and have discussions as our program really gets implemented and underway, because we are taking this pilot and approach to learn and not make too many assumptions that force us into purchases, knowing that there also could be further development on this 3-year horizon that we have in terms of technology and new products coming online. So that's why we've kind of taken that more phased approach in our implementation, and I think with a city of our size, it's most appropriate. But we are excited to be able to get started this year, and grateful for all the collaboration that we've had with both our Board of Representatives and the residents of Stamford. So, Vincent, happy to just pause there. I don't know if there are any questions or any comments that you have about the legislation or about the approach that Stamford's taking.
So what you have, that's very helpful, Matt, because you guys have a very big challenge in front of you. It'll be important to know, as you progress, how can we follow along? So, for example, if you end up selecting a battery brand, if you will, how would we know what you've decided to select?
Yeah, great question. So I think we will look to publish the progress of our effort, so you can kind of join us on this journey. Also mention that I'm joined today by our sustainability coordinator, Eleanor Blomstrom, So I think we can list Eleanor's contact information in the chat if anyone's interested in just having a follow-up discussion or curious about checking in with Stanford at any particular juncture. But we will be leveraging our website to publish information as we further update. And I'll put a plug in for our Office of Operations Instagram account. So that anyone who wants to follow along with other news related to our public works can do so.
That's great. And what I'll do is I'll go through some best practices here that you may want to touch upon, because you've touched upon these elements. A lot of towns, one of the first things they really need to think about is battery charging. And in battery charging, I would recommend that you think charging agnostic, because you can buy, for example, a steel charging system or a ego charging system, but then many times those systems won't allow you to charge other equipment. So as you investigate charging, investigate things such as the Tawa equipment, which not only protects your electrical system, but it's independent of any of the brands. So I have a link in the presentation for Tawa. By the way, if you would, Summer, will this presentation be available for download by participants?
Yes, we will email a link of the recording to everyone that registered later this afternoon. And I actually can jump in. We have a couple questions for Matt in the chat, if that's okay.
Excellent. Go ahead.
All right. The first one is from Jean. So what equipment will Stanford start with? What is planned for lawn mowing equipment? What's available? And will it run all day?
Yeah, so right now we're committed to three equipments, zero-turn mowers. Our estimated runtime on that on a single charge is between 5 and 7 hours. We're going to use that for primary daily operations and plan to do our overnight charging. We're committed to leaf blowers. Right now, we feel like our estimated runtime is approximately 40 minutes. So we're looking to kind of support that through like a rapid 30-minute charge cycle. That's the equipment we're targeting, and looking to kind of leverage our in-truck charging stations right now with reserve battery types. And then finally, our multi-attached power heads, weed trimmer, hedge clipper, power broom. Our estimated runtime for those are 2 to 3 hours. And we plan to support the charging in a similar fashion to what I described as for the leaf blower operations.
Thank you. And then one more question for you from Natalie. Is there any analysis available on cost comparisons? This is someone from Darien, and their town hall is determined to stay with gas-powered equipment. So do you have also a plan for recycling batteries when they reach their end of life?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far in terms of the recycling plan. I'll say one of the approaches we took with the legislature was an acknowledgement that we would need the ability to develop our plan and learn as we go. I think that was a key component. My comfortability to embrace this as the director with the flexibility to evolve over time. And I think that gave the legislative body the confidence to move forward without having this massive financial analysis that frankly would have been driven off of a ton of assumptions that no one was really in a position to offer, because we haven't implemented something at this scale citywide. So I think that would have been a hindrance to passing the ordinance if we were forced into that type of analysis. That being said, the other side of it is we still need to go through our budget process and get the support to turn over the equipment over time. And if that time horizon is going to comply with the 3 years that our ordinance is dictating, then it will require some additional appropriations that go beyond our annual budget, and we'll have to approach that with the boards at those time. But 3-year horizon also gives us the opportunity to pursue grant dollars and find other means. So I think our financial analysis will align following our pilot year, when we have had the experience with the equipment that we do then want to commit to across the department and across all those functions. So that's the way we've been approaching it.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And then one last question. I think this is for both of you for now. Can you suggest a way to reduce overall use of leaf blowers in the summer?
So I'll speak to that. There are towns that are working on what I would call quiet summer approaches. We have a number of jurisdictions that have passed ordinances. Stamford has, their ordinance would actually cover restriction for 9 months of the year, which would include the summer. And that ordinance goes into effect, I believe, in 2 years from now. Greenwich, Westport, and Norwalk already have ordinances, and New Canaan just passed an ordinance which is coming to a referendum vote on July 25th. Ridgefield is also considering an ordinance, a quiet summer ordinance. The fact of the matter is, leaf blowing in the summer is largely overdone. If you are cutting your lawn and you really are talking about grass clippings, and there's really only a need to blow what they call hardscapes, for example, the sidewalk to the house, so you're not tracking leaf lawn clippings into the home, or maybe a driveway. But it's vastly overdone. It's not unusual to see 3 to 5 landscapers going across a lawn, each with a gas-powered leaf blower, spending money doing largely nothing. So the summertime is the best time to think about converting to battery-powered equipment and just doing less. Less is better for the environment. Let me come back to the retooling of best practices. To Matt's point, there is something called power stations as well as charge bots. Basically, what you do is you have a battery inside the trailer that you use to charge your batteries. And because battery technology is advancing so quickly, prices are dropping quite fast. If you use that link to power stations, you'll see that they have batteries that are now at 50% of the cost. There's also inverters that you can put into the truck. So as the truck is traveling down the road to the next job, the inverter is charging the batteries that you're going to use for landscaping. But you need to do some research to make sure you're using the proper inverter and you're doing battery isolation so you're not actually harming the vehicle. And then there's trailer setups. There's folks that have actually set up trailers with solar panels and power stations so they can work all day long. The equipment goes into the trailer just like any landscaping trailer, and the trailer is producing power to keep the equipment charged throughout the day. And those are all links to YouTube's to trailer setups if you're interested. In fact, I was talking to New York's Office of Sustainability, and they have actually made their own trailer. And what they found was by including a microwave in the trailer, they've gotten rapid adoption from the crews because the crews can have a hot lunch or make themselves a hot coffee. So these trailers are actually turning things around for the state of New York. You could also consider hiring experts. There's an expert company out there called American Green Zone Alliance. They have expertise in helping organizations with the retooling process so that you don't make a major investment only to find out that the system is failing. There's tool product lines. You can have the different companies come out and do a product demonstration for you. So you can compare, and your crews can compare the different makes and models. And so all these companies, Ego, Greenworks, Crest, Echo, Makita, Steel, they'll all do product demonstrations for you. And they'll, in fact, sometimes even allow you to utilize the equipment from some time. AGSA also has field tested product recommendations. So they have their own field tested products that they would recommend. When you think about your new investments, please evaluate warranties and product repair and replacement support. That's important because equipment will fail, and you want to be able to make sure that you can have that repaired and replaced. A kind of a warning here, your best option is not necessarily your current outdoor power equipment supplier. I have gone to places where they may have used the fossil fuel equipment supplier for many, many years. They're now investigating battery. So they naturally say, what kind of battery equipment do you have? And they opt for that without actually doing any product comparisons. And I can tell you that you have a high chance of failing by going that route, only because a lot of the traditional fossil fuel equipment suppliers make what I call compliance battery equipment. They know they have to have a foot in the game, but it's not necessarily their best technology. So you're better off searching and comparing before you opt with your current outdoor power equipment supplier. And finally, there are work practices that really need to change. For example, you may want to use mulching blades on your mowers so you can minimize the amount of leaf blowing you actually have to use. And you should consider use of robotic mowers in certain cases, which a lot of the market is moving towards robotic mowers. They mow almost on a daily basis. A lot of golf courses are going this route. They're very quiet. They make very, very small leaf clippings, and they basically reduce the amount of leaf blowing that actually even needs to be done. I'm going to back up 1 second for a sustainable purchasing policy. Stanford has gone with an ordinance, which is very brave on their part and shows a real high level of commitment. An alternative approach is to have a sustainable purchasing policy. Ridgefield is now considering this. What we've done is it would be limited to handheld lawn care tools. So these are the smaller pieces of equipment. Once the existing gas-powered equipment reaches end of life, the town departments would be expected to buy battery-operated equipment, except if they have certain exceptions. For example, it might be equipment that's used by first responders to provide emergency services. In that case, they would be able to purchase a gas-powered equipment if they believe that the battery equipment would not serve their needs. So if anyone's interested, actually what I'll do is I'll send the draft policy to Summer, and she can send that out as well. It has not yet been adopted by the town of Ridgefield, but it's under consideration. Summer, are there any more questions before I move on to the Lawn Equipment Exchange Fund?
Yeah, there are a couple more questions. If you would like me to read them out, slides, and then we can move on to the questions at the end. It's up to you.
Okay, I'll do this one quickly, and then we'll go to questions.
Perfect.
So for those that don't know, in 2010, there was something called the Lawn Equipment Exchange Fund. It was run by Connecticut's DEEP, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. What it did was for every gas-powered equipment that a town scrapped, they received 80% of the cost of a new model. It was intended and it worked to take advantage of the new EPA emission reductions for these small engines. 71 Connecticut municipalities participated in the program. The state only had to invest about $500,000, and they reduced 49 tons of THC and NOx. They didn't evaluate methane or PM 2.5. They were just looking at THC and NOx. What we've been trying to do in the Sierra Club is to reactivate this fund. And the way it would work would be for each gas-powered equipment scrapped, the town would receive 80% of the new costs of a battery model, batteries, and charging systems. And 9 towns had signed a letter from the senior elected official to support the reactivation of this program. It's a voluntary program. Towns don't have to convert or retool to battery, but if they wish to do so, there would be a state fund to help out. And so if you're interested in having your town sign a letter, please feel free to contact me, and I can tell you what your town might have done in 2010, and I can send you copies of letters from different towns so that you can possibly join in this effort. We will be trying in the new legislative session to reactivate the Lawn Equipment Exchange Fund, but we need town support to make this happen. Okay, Summer, back to you in the questions.
Great. We can turn it over to questions now. I can read out some of the ones in the chat that were mentioned, and then anyone wants to come off mute and just shout them out, feel free. So we have a question from Tina in terms of switching to electric or battery powered lawn care. Does this get decided by town political bodies, or must there be some sort of state legislation also?
So we've been trying at the state level to create an environment so that towns that want to convert to battery operated power can do so. So again, the Lawn Equipment Exchange Fund is one mechanism. Another concept was to have the Connecticut Green Bank create a tailored loan program for commercial operators so they'd have access to capital. I'm afraid at this moment, the state doesn't have the political willpower to go forward with a stop use or stop sale program, but they may have the political will to possibly put in place a rebate program so that people who are interested in a more sustainable form of lawn care could have the means to do so. So I think you're looking at working through your sustainable groups to demonstrate lead by example programs like what Stanford is doing, or what Ridgefield's attempting to do with its softer approach. Matt, I don't know if you've got anything you'd like to add.
Thank you. And then, oh yeah, Matt, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to read the next question. So if you have anything to jump in, feel free.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Feel free to jump to the next one.
I'd like to jump in with one comment in case there's any other legislators on the call. There's nothing in the state of Connecticut that prevents towns from enacting their own legislation. I think what Vincent was highlighting was getting funding for it, but there is nothing that prevents legislators from carrying this type of legislation out. That's it.
Yeah, very good point, Karen. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Karen. Super helpful.
In other states, Karen's right, because in other states, local governments aren't actually able to do what we're doing in Connecticut.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. Next question. This is from Kyle. Curious about resident reaction to proposed GPLB bans. It seems opinion might be split between people who hate them versus those who claim to need them. What has been the reaction in your communities?
Well, if I could ask Karen to jump in again, because she was involved in Stanford, and then I'll add the Richfield experience.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, Karen, the question was about residential it, reaction to gas powered leaf blower restrictions.
I would say that it is definitely mixed. We had a ton of people come out to our public hearings and write into us, really unprecedented. Whenever we do environmental sustainability ordinances or any kind of action on that, the community really comes out in favor of it. But if I'm to reflect on things that I saw on posts on, for example, Nextdoor, and social media, there were a fair amount of people that just didn't understand what we were trying to do. But I would say that for the most part, the reaction was overwhelmingly favorable. I think educating the public, giving as much information as possible, and honestly, without Vincent's help, I don't think we would have gotten this ordinance passed. A lot of the environmental groups, when you coordinate with them, they just bring so much expertise and knowledge to any situation that it really helped to educate our body, the Board of Reps, and bring us along in why this was important, that the city was going to save money, that we had a responsibility to the employees, that sort of thing. So I would say overwhelmingly supportive.
Yeah, and I'll just add before Vincent, before you jump in with Ridgefield, I think what's unique about this particular issue is that it also brought out folks that maybe were not necessarily traditional advocates for sustainable policy change or environmental initiatives, but were just concerned with noise. And want to enjoy their afternoon at home, and were constantly being impacted by leaf blower noise pollution. And I think that I found that to be an interesting dynamic in this particular debate. The flip side of that is, I think, for any community looking at pursuing this, is talking to folks who are responsible for the maintenance of particular like recreational spaces, I think is important before having the public debate, so you know what kind of posture they're going to be taking to potentially banning this. I know we have resistance from golf courses and other folks that I think have the responsibilities of prepping recreational space for significant demands. So just knowing what their posture is, I think, is important. And before going into a public debate, just flag that.
Yeah, very good points. Thank you both. In Ridgefield, when we started our process, we were able to, in a very short period of time, collect over 450 signatures of registered Ridgefield voters that wanted a change. They wanted us to move to a more sustainable approach. That was very impactful, has been impactful in Ridgefield. There are folks that just want to hang on to their gas-powered equipment for as long as possible, and they're very vocal about it. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about power and speed. I can tell you that battery-powered equipment, for example, the handheld leaf blowers, are more powerful than the gas-powered leaf blowers. And some of it is just getting the equipment in the hands of people, and they say, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was this powerful. I'll give you just one quick example. There was a landscaper up the street was running his gas-powered leaf blower in the middle of summer. And I just walked up there with my handheld battery, and I said, here, would you give this a try? And he was shocked at how much power that thing had. He said, this has more power than the thing that's on my back. I said, that's right. And it's actually even cheaper because it's a handheld leaf blower in the summer. So having product demonstrations, showing off the tools, doing things like we did a buyback in Ridgefield. Every Earth Week, we do a 2-hour pop-up buyback. Basically, a Ridgefield resident can bring any gas-powered piece of equipment to the transfer station, and they will get a $50 coupon at Lowe's to buy any battery-operated tool they like. And every year in less than 2 hours, we have filled a truck full of old gas-powered equipment. And the residents are just saying, oh, I've been waiting for something like this. This is great. Or I already have steel battery equipment. I'm going to use the $50 coupon to buy another battery. The residents are moving more quickly towards battery operated equipment. Why? Because it can do the job and it's more convenient. It's really the municipalities and the commercial operators that are largely the sticking point. So what Stanford is doing, what the town of Chester is doing, they're showing other municipalities that this can be done. There are savings involved, and we can protect our employees more. All right, Summer, next question.
Yeah, thank you. So for regarding the previous 5-year cost comparison, is there deeper information on the analysis, including what winterization is needed for a leaf blower besides some fuel stabilizer additives and maybe a spark arrestor cleaning?
We do have more to economic analysis, but we haven't gone through and listed, and I can check. I'll make a note to go back as to what cost or the makeup of that winterization might be. So I'll follow up on that, but nothing comes readily to mind.
Perfect. And then next question is, do municipalities and Connecticut work together on ordinances? Someone who's interested in maybe connecting to others on this.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Summer, one more time.
Do municipalities in Connecticut work together on ordinances? This is just from someone who is interested in maybe connecting with others on this topic.
I see. Well, I would suggest that there are legislators that would be interested. I know we have got Karen on the call here from Stanford, and Matt both have served in the Board of Representatives. And I'm sure that they would be willing to assist or mentor. I'm offering your time up, Matt. I hope you don't mind.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that I think just in my role, and I think Karen would say also in her time on the board, being able to reach out to folks throughout the state who are working on some or have already implemented something that you're looking to do in your community is a great way to be able to draft ordinances. I don't know of any kind of formal convening where that opportunity exists. CCM might be a good resource to further for that, but I'll just throw an open invitation. Certainly, on behalf of Stanford, we would welcome the opportunity to speak with anyone about this and our process in getting this ordinance passed. I know in my role, often reach out to others that have done something already. I know we previously were working on a tree ordinance with Representative Camporelli, and I had the opportunity to speak with the Hartford urban forester, and she was a wealth of knowledge that was really helpful for me. So I certainly do it in my capacity as well.
I think that's an excellent approach. The towns that have passed ordinances, there will be representatives that would be helpful. I can tell you that my experience has been having an elected official who's willing to lead the charge, to be an environmental champion, and supported by someone like Matt, who is a director of operations, is really important to getting legislation through. So if you don't have anyone on the board of select persons or in the mayor's office or the board of representatives that is an environmental champion, it's going to be a very difficult process because you have to drive this to a vote, and you need somebody who can drive it to a vote.
Vincent, I'd like to just expand on that. Honestly, I really have to thank Director Canonis for his bravery. And when I say bravery, I mean, he is undertaking an enormous challenge. And from the very beginning, he was willing to, as long as I think he spoke about it in the beginning, there were fail safes, places where he could get out if he needed to. And I cannot agree with you more. Without somebody in your local administration championing something like this, especially in operations, it just can't happen. And so I have to thank him for his bravery, publicly. He's pretty amazing. So thank you.
I agree. All right, next question, Summer.
Thank you to Matt. Yeah, we do wrap up at 11, so we have 2 minutes left. 3 questions left in the chat, so hopefully we can get through them all. The first one is, how have workers responded to the use of electric tools?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So certainly some folks definitely looked at me crazy within our department for jumping in and embracing this. But I just felt beyond anyone who doesn't understand it, from being a champion for sustainable initiatives or from the lens of reform. It's a question that public works should be able to answer. In terms of what is this the most efficient way to operate your public works function. So whether or not you buy into all the benefits of health and environment or not, I felt that was core. So for those that couldn't connect on the sustainability angle, I tried to approach it from that angle to say, this is just a question we should be able to answer. And anyone, while they're the experts doing the day-to-day maintenance, because they haven't had the experience with EV equipment, they couldn't answer that question for me. So that was a starting place for them. And then giving them agency in the selection of equipment and ultimately the changes in how we're going to operate, and not being too top down with that implementation. And I think they also appreciated the piloted approach that we're taking, that it wasn't going to be a disruption to their department overnight, that they were going to be able to try it out. So I think once we got past the initial reaction, these are also people who are doing this every day. The curiosity is also there. So I think that's where we are today. And we definitely have a lot of buy-in and folks that are eager to do so, and try it out. And from there, there may be some skeptics, but it's not any level of resistance that's preventing us from moving forward. So very appreciative for the staff of our department leaning into this.
And I'll just add quickly, those are all excellent points, Matt. I spoke to a number of landscape employees that have converted, and they've told me that they love not having to smell like gasoline and bringing it home. Having to wait at the gasoline station to refill cans, having to maintain the equipment, having to pull start the equipment, pulling multiple times during the day. It's a trigger. You're just pulling the trigger. And then, so I think, and the vibrations, we haven't talked about that, but a lot of the gas-powered equipment has vibrations, which causes hand and arm issues. So the employees will find that they actually will prefer that battery-operated tool over time. They just need, as Matt said, they need to be introduced to the equipment and have agency in the say of what equipment they're going to have to use. They're doing the work. Let them make the choice.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Well, I know we are over time. So I think we will wrap up. But if you both are willing to stay on for a couple minutes to answer the last questions, it's up to you.
I'm available.
I could probably hang for 1 minute or two, and then I'll have to jump. But if you want to have another question, could certainly field it. And if it's not related to me and Vincent takes it, I may jump. And so I'll just say here, thank you Summer for leading us through this, and Vincent for inviting me. And again, we are just starting our journey. So I look forward to hopefully future conversations where we can maybe provide a little bit more of the results and analysis from launching this. So we're just a few months away from that, but I appreciate the conversation today nonetheless. And thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you so much again for joining us. That last question is, do new municipal ordinances require private landscapers to convert as well as town/city crews?
So I'll take this one, Matt. And thank you very much for joining and your leadership. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you all. Take care.
So they don't necessarily have to include commercial operators. There's lots of different approaches to this situation. Some only require commercial landscapers to abide by a restriction, and some don't require the commercial landscapers to abide, but they deal with the residents. So a lot of it has to do with what gets negotiated in the sausage making of legislation. Some change the timeframes. So, for example, they might say, well, with respect to residents, we'll have a 2-year effective date, but for commercial operators, we'll give them 3 years. So commercial operators could be covered, but they're given a longer time to make the transition because they have a larger fleet of equipment to retool. So there's many different approaches across the board. There is a US PIRG site, which is very good, and it shows you all the different towns and states that have legislated in this area with links to that legislation. I actually have a document that will give you about close to 40 different pieces of legislation in Westchester, New York, and Connecticut. I will forward that to Summer. It's a map. You click on the town, and then that will bring you to a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet will bring you to a summary of that legislation and to the legislation itself.
Thank you, Vincent. And we are at time, so we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful presenter today. As mentioned, this has been recorded, and we will be sharing out the recording in a follow-up email to all registrants, along with a copy of Vincent's slides with all of his wonderful links. Thank you so much.